I'm not interested in noise. I'm interested in the one move that would make our fourth-quarter defense feel inevitable again. You know that feeling when the building goes quiet on the opponent's best wing because our guy is already sitting on his favorite spot? One step early, one hand in the passing lane, and the other stealing a pocket pass? That's the picture I want you to keep in mind as we walk through where the market is, how the cap really works in our lane, what the rotation would become, and why the timing matters. I'll give you the clean roadmap without spoiling the name until the moment it matters. First, why this conversation exists around a long two-way forward right now. Second, how the apron rules narrow or open our paths. Third, what the fit looks like next to Luka and LeBron in JJ's scheme. Fourth, the trade frameworks that are actually legal. And finally, the scoreboard impact between now and spring. If you value reporting that treats you like an adult, facts first, agenda nowhere, stay with me, because this one is the difference between surviving a series and controlling one. Let's start with the temperature of our locker room and the league around us. Under J.J. Redick, our identity has sharpened. Clearer shot profile, fewer empty possessions, better end-of-quarter execution. Luka's usage bends defenses into single high help and deep nails. LeBron still manipulates rotations with the same chessboard calm we've seen for 2 decades, but now with a backcourt partner who punishes late tags and late switches. The next step is obvious. Build a defensive shell that travels into May, not just March. That shell needs length at the point of attack. Someone who can top-lock star wings one night and absorb big guard creation the next. Who doesn't flinch when the matchup slides from Tatum to Kawhi to KD over a 5-day stretch, and who accepts a low-usage offensive role without freezing the ball. Around the league, the scarcity of that archetype is real. Most contenders hoard them. Most teams below the line don't move them until the tax math or the standings force a phone call. That's the window we're talking about today, now the money. Everyone loves to toss names. Very few respect the apron. If you're over the second apron, your ability to combine smaller salaries to bring back a bigger one is choked off. You can't just stack mid-tier deals to climb into a 20+ million slot. It's one-for-one money, equal or less incoming, surgical and unforgiving. If you're under that line or hovering beneath, you regain flexibility to aggregate, to bring in a contract that sits in the mid-20s by sending out multiple pieces. That is why any realistic plan for a premium wing has 2 branches. Path A, if we're operating under the second apron, or can thread under it for the transaction. Path B, if we're sitting firmly above and must go 1-for-1. People get this wrong every day. We won't. Schematically, look at what we ask on defense in the minutes that decide games. We switch selectively with Luka to avoid cheap fouls and preserve his legs. We pre-rotate with LeBron's anticipation, and we need the weak side wing to both tag rollers and close with length without fouling shooters. The opponent's best scorer, more often than not, comes off flares and staggers in those sequences. If your forward can navigate the screen without dying and can contest without crashing into the airborne shooter, your whole defense breathes. Offensively, next to a heliocentric playmaker and the smartest secondary creator of his generation, that same forward has to cut on Luka's eye contact, screen and slip to activate cross matches, live in the corners with a reliable release, and punish late closeouts with 2 dribbles and a pass, not with over-dribbling. This isn't an every-night 25 points role. It's a win-the-possession battle role. Stack enough of those possessions and the series tips, so why now? Because one team with real payroll pressure is navigating the tightrope between winning today and protecting tomorrow's picks. When a franchise stacks expensive stars and pays deep into the luxury system for consecutive seasons, the second apron penalties turn theoretical pain into practical decisions. That's when a front office takes calls it wouldn't take in October of last year. You can connect the dots. A long 6.9 stopper with on-ball pride, legitimate all-defense resume chatter, playoff reps against elite scorers, and a contract that pays him like what he is, a top-shelf wing defender whose offense has grown enough to stay on the floor in any series. He is exactly the antidote to the kind of length that has bothered us in recent springs. Now let me show you the paths without naming him. Yet. Path A, aggregation possible. You build the offer around a mid to upper teens anchor salary. Attach a second rotation piece whose deal lands just over 8 figures. And you sweeten with draft tools that still exist after our blockbuster winner. The math lands you close to the mid-20s incoming, you satisfy matching rules, and you let the other team carve out a cleaner ledger sheet while adding playable depth. Path B, 1-for-1 only. You identify one contract near the target number and accept the cold reality. If you don't have a single outgoing in that band, you likely need a creative 3-team structure or you shelve it until July. In both paths, you respect the no aggregation above the line wall if it applies to us on transaction day. You don't try to run through it. Rotation impact is simple and beautiful. Insert this forward at the 3. Slide LeBron into more 4 minutes to punish Smalls and keep him closer to the glass. And let Luka live in his orchestration pocket with a safety valve who occupies the team's toughest wing assignment every night. Closing 5 becomes modular. Luka, Reeves, our target forward, LeBron, and whichever 5 protects the rim and catches in the short roll. Against big bruisers who park in the dunker's spot, you can size up. Against Denver and Oklahoma City, you trust the wing length to contest without doubling from the strong corner. You'll see immediate benefits, fewer scrambles, cleaner defensive rebounds because contests come from length, not late help, and more runouts when that forward turns deflections into advantage. On offense, the shot quality lifts without the usage spiking because Luka's gravity creates 2-on-the-ball moments, and this forward doesn't hesitate on the catch. This is playoff basketball. Win the micro moments, not the highlight reel. I've danced around the name long enough. The player I'm talking about, the one our front office has every reason to test the temperature on, the one who fits our scheme, our timeline, and our need, is Jaden Mcdaniels. Long, disciplined, mean in the best competitive way, and built for the possessions that decide series. You've watched him bother elite scorers without help, and you've watched him scale from on-ball stopper to a two-way wing who understands spacing, angles, and tempo. He doesn't need to feel the ball to stay engaged. He creates value by erasing your best guy's first option and by making your second read a beat late. Put that next to Luka's command and LeBron's orchestration, and you've just hardened our ceiling. Now the hard part, price and pathways. McDaniels is on a multi-year number in the mid-20s, meaning you don't get him with a couple of minimums and a handshake. If we're under the second apron or able to structure the deal to keep us there at the moment of execution. Aggregation opens the door to a package like Rui Hachimura, plus a second outgoing contract in the low teens. Supported by draft compensation, the rules still allow us to move. That kind of deal gives Minnesota 2 playable bodies and flexibility they'll value if they're massaging cost lines while remaining competitive. If we're over the line and the rulebook says 1-for-1, the calculus gets colder. We'd need a single outgoing salary in McDaniels' range or a third team that takes our mid-tier money and sends Minnesota the right match. That's where frameworks can involve a team with space or with a traded player exception, essentially turning it into 2 legal trades rather than one aggregated swap. Timeline matters here. December and January open trade eligibility on many contracts. February is the league's deadline, and July is the reset if winter math doesn't clear. If the phone calls don't locate a legal 1-for-1, the summer becomes the real window. Risk profile? On the court, low. He defends without fouling at a playoff rate. He doesn't chase blocks out of scheme, and his screen navigation holds up under scouting. Offensively, he's a trigger you trust on second-side action and a cutter who becomes a layup machine when the strong-side tagger is late on Luka's drive. The shot isn't standstill only. He can drift into space and his feet are quiet on the catch. The bigger risk is cost. You pay with depth and with picks because premium wings cost premium assets. That's the truth we don't run from. The question is whether the final 4 minutes against the best in the West are worth that price. If your answer is yes, you go get a player who makes your stars' lives simpler without asking for touches. Let me zoom into JJ's board for a second, because this is where I live. With McDaniels on the floor, we can change our coverage without changing personnel. Switch the first action, peel switch the second, and still keep the nail protected because his length closes windows that shorter wings can't. Against teams that run split cuts off their big at the elbow, he sits on the first backdoor, discourages the split, and still has the legs to contest the kickout. Against stagger to flare actions, he changes shoulder at precisely the right step so he never eats the screen flush. That keeps us out of emergency rotations, which keeps LeBron fresher for endgame offense. Offensively, throw him into Luka's empty side pick and roll as the screener. If the opponent switches, Luka eats. If they show, you short roll to a simple 2-on-1 read, floater, or corner spray. And when LeBron runs delay at the top, McDaniels becomes the cutter that punishes ball watching. This is how you win a Game 5 on the road. Boring, repeatable advantages created by a forward who doesn't need the ball to boost your offensive rating. Let's talk picks and optics because I know you care. After the mid-season blockbuster that brought Luka to LA, our draft chest isn't overflowing, but it isn't empty either. Swaps exist. Distant firsts exist within the league's boundaries. You don't make this move to win a headline. You make it because it turns a good defense into a late-series defense. The Wolves' side is straightforward. If they believe their current core is the path, they'll hold. If second apron pressure and depth needs demand rebalancing, they'll at least listen, especially if the inbound players help now and the picks help later. That's the market. And yes, there's always a chance we're told, great offer, wrong timing. That's when you keep the relationship warm for July. What does this do to the room? It clarifies roles. McDaniels takes the top wing every night. Reeves lives as the third creator with more clean catch-and-shoots. LeBron plays more possessions at the 4 without the constant need to chase elite wings. Luka spends fewer possessions absorbing the heaviest matchups and more possessions punishing single coverage. Your closing 5 feels adult and matchup-proof, and your practice habits improve because iron sharpens iron. There's a difference between simulating a Tatum rep and getting it at speed from a teammate with those arms and that discipline. I'll land the plane where I started. This is not about chasing a shiny name. It's about solving a playoff problem that has beaten great teams before, ours included. The name is Jaden Mcdaniels, and the fit is exactly the kind that lifts a very good team into the inner circle. Whether it happens in season or in July will be about the apron, about 1-for-1 versus aggregation, about whether a third team wants to eat salary for picks, and about how Minnesota values short-term depth versus long-term cost management. On basketball alone, you do it yesterday. Before I close, I want your voice. Because this channel is smarter when you're loud in the right way. Would you pay the real price, players and future assets, for Jaden McDaniels to become our nightly stopper and closing 5 lock? Or would you hold the line, protect depth, and hunt a cheaper option at the wing? Tell me below how you'd build the package within the apron rules and which closing lineup you trust in a Game 6. I'll read everyone. If you want more reporting like this, cap mechanics explained in plain language, tape fit without the fluff, and updates the second they're real. Subscribe to Lakers News Fan Report, keep alerts on, and ride with me through every rumor and every move until we're building a parade, not a plan.